Hi all. I'm back today and I want to talk today about why attachment styles develop differently. And I always like to think of it as being like the same storm but different boats, basically. So this is one of the most common questions I hear. And it's, if my siblings and I grew up in the same house with the same parents, why do we have different attachment styles? And the answer lies in like the complex interplay between environment and temperament, basically. So while children may share the same parents, their experiences of love and safety and attunement can vary greatly. Factors that shape different detachment styles, for instance, would be things like temperament. Some children are naturally more sensitive, picking up on subtle shifts in mood or tone. Others are more resilient or independent, and this sensitivity influences how a child interprets caregiver behaviour, basically. Another thing would be parental resources. Parents may have more emotional or practical availability at one stage in their life, say for their first child, maybe, but less at another stage, whether that's due to work stress or financial strain or life circumstances. Things change all the time in life, don't they? Another factor could be parental dynamics. And this is like the quality of the relationship between caregivers affects the emotional climate. So, one child may experience closeness with one parent, while another feels distance or conflict more acutely, if that makes sense. And also, we can't ignore like the elephant in the room, which is birth order and roles that children play. So firstborn children often become helpers or mediators, while younger siblings may experience less pressure but also less attention, if that if you understand what I mean. Um, and, and this is why we can also have obviously individual experiences. Our attachment styles are not fixed, they can change at any time throughout our lives. We may have had a very secure childhood, and then something happens in our teens or something happens in our 20s or 30s or whatever that suddenly switches us up. It sets a switch in our brain, and suddenly we're no longer a secure attachment style. We've moved into insecure. So, individual experiences can play a real part in this, whether that is illness or bullying or trauma or unique milestones can often affect one child differently than another, shaping their view of safety and connection. And let's not forget that we can go through the exact same thing, but it's never the exact same thing for us. You can be in a car accident with your sibling at the same time, but you will both feel very differently about it. You will experience it in a different way. So, this is why one child becomes anxious or may become anxious, fearing rejection, and another may become avoidant, learning to self soothe themselves. And a third may become fearful avoidant, caught in like that push and pull dynamic. And sometimes children do grow up secure if they consistently felt they were seen and soothed and safe and supported. And here's what I want you to remember, basically: attachment isn't about blame. Like, nothing that I talk about, even when I talk about the way we were parented or our caregivers or how we were brought up, this isn't about blame. We all do the best that, well, most of us do the best that we can with the tools that we have about us. It's about understanding. Your attachment style isn't a life sentence. It's a roadmap showing you where you came from and where you can grow, where you've still got room to grow, and we all have room to grow. I love these questions. I asked them in the last 4 days. I'm going to ask it again today. So, if you have siblings, I know not everybody does, but if you do you notice differences in how each of you approaches your relationships? And how do you think your early environment shaped those differences? So, for example, I was speaking with somebody who was the middle child of three, and he remembered how his older brothers often acted like the protector in the family, always responsible and vigilant. Well, he himself learned to disappear quietly to avoid conflict. Whereas his younger sister, meanwhile, seemed carefree and secure, getting the most consistent affection as the baby of the family. And that is something that we do see quite a lot. Even though they shared the same parents and the same home, each child experienced love and affection differently and developed different attachment styles as a result. So, for me personally, because I like to, I don't like to just lecture people. I like to give you some real world experience that I've had. For me personally, I see this quite clearly with my own siblings. I'm the oldest of three, and I grew up feeling anxious and responsible for everything. And my dad had really wanted a son first, or I always felt he wanted a son first, and he did once tell me that. And I carried this quiet sense of being a disappointment my entire life. Like I needed to work harder to be, good enough, to be seen, to be heard, to be valued, to be lovable. And so I spent my entire life believing that I was disappointing. Nothing I did was ever going to be good enough. Nothing I could do would ever be good enough. And yet I'd still chase that desire to prove myself. Whereas my younger sister, on the other hand, she's 10 years younger than me, is far more secure, or certainly from what I've observed of her. She got a softer version of my mother. Um, her father was not in the picture by that time. And she got a lot more consistent affection because she was 10 years younger than me. She had my mother, she had me, she had my brother, and we all doted on her. So she grew up in a very different environment to me. And although we grew up in the same house, our experiences of love and therefore our attachment styles ended up being very, very different. For me, it took years of healing to move from that anxious place into a more secure attachment. For her, security seemed to come much more naturally. So you see, it is very, very possible to have very different experiences from even our siblings as we grow. And I always like to think of it, and I've said this earlier in the video, I like to think of it as the same storm but different boats. Some of us have bigger boats, some of us have smaller boats, some of us have boats with holes in. It's the same storm, but it's different boats. So anyway, that's all from me today because my throat is going again. I'll be back tomorrow to talk about how you're not stuck with the attachment style that you developed in childhood. So I will see you all then. Take care, all. Bye.